Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. On today's show, we'll check in with the Ames Public Works Department. My guest today is Eric Cowles, civil engineer with the Ames Public Works Department. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I had to think there for a minute about your title. You have had a few different roles here at the City of Ames. Tell me a little bit about your history here.
That's correct. I started in 2007 as the construction supervisor, so I was in the field overseeing all the construction projects. And then in 2010, I came into my current role as a civil engineer too, working with coordinating the design for capital improvement projects, and recently have rolled into doing more of the development and site plan project review for Public Works.
So you really you've taken on a lot of different tasks, a lot of them very much about street improvement.
Very much so. Originally that's all that I really worked on. Now in working with developers and redevelopers of sites, I get to work with street improvements, utility improvements, coordinations of easements and things like that. And it's a really interesting part of the work that I get to do. And it also allows me to keep my finger on the pulse of the community as far as what is coming as developers and redevelopment sites come in and what people are looking at to get done in town.
So you kind of had the inside scoop on what street might be reconstructed and what street might wait a few years. How are those decisions made?
Well, actually, it's quite a process. The streets for reconstruction, we drive or have our streets driven every couple of years to do it's a survey, if you will. A van drives over these and it has sensors in the van that counts cracks, pavement distresses, and smoothness, and it actually gives the road a rating. And we can track that rating to determine how quickly the road is deteriorating. And then what we try to do is catch up some of the middle of the road projects, the streets that aren't completely destroyed, and try to catch those up in a more cost-effective way than having to do a total reconstruction.
Yeah, I know you are involved in a lot of repairs as opposed to reconstructing. I'm sure it's always better to maintain what you have than try to build it new.
Absolutely. If you can get to things before they are totally gone, it is a little more cost-effective. If you go to a total reconstruction, the cost and the impact to the residents and the time that they have to be out of their drives and the dust and the mess related to the reconstruction and the impact is a whole lot greater. But the upside is if you do those reconstructions, you're probably not going to be back there for another 20 to 30 years in doing anything.
It seems like street projects are one of those things we just love to hate. You know, they can be an annoyance, they can be an inconvenience, but they're really so very necessary. Absolutely.
We do a lot of public outreach for our projects, and a couple of times that we've been in a neighborhood that is a little more mature, the houses are a little older, and we're reconstructing the street. And one of the first questions I ask is, who was here the last time that we redid the street? And once in a while I'll get a hand in the air and I'll ask, when was that? And they're like, oh, it was 1958 or 1963 or something like that. And I'm like, so in other words, a long time ago. And now we're back to reconstruct. So we haven't impacted anybody for quite a while. And then, ultimately the question is, well, how long is this going to take? Well, a typical block and a half, you're looking at 6-8 weeks worth of work, depending on the utilities needed to be done. And I say, so in 30 to 35 years, we're going to impact you for about 8 weeks.
Well, and actually that amount of time is so weather dependent. We've had some pretty wet construction seasons, and construction season in Iowa is fairly limited. We're not doing these projects in the winter.
That's right. We're very limited on what we can do during the winter months. Usually you can do bridge and structural work, but obviously we don't have very many bridges here in town. We do have 6th Street Bridge under construction right now, which did take place over the winter, but typically, we don't have much going on for construction during the winter months. And the weather can truly affect things. I mean, look back to last November. We had a kind of a wet summer, and then it dried out for about a month, and we got a lot of work done in that month, and all of a sudden it turned wet again, and then it turned super cold so fast that all the contractors pretty much shut down. And then we had 2 weeks of pretty good weather, and then it got super cold again, shutting everybody
Well,
down.
and it's not just it's too cold, we don't want to work. There's actually material issues with working in those cold temperatures.
That's absolutely right. There are specifications. You can do cold weather concreting. There are things in place that allow you to work in the cold with the materials you need to do. A lot of times underground work isn't affected quite as much. Concrete paving, asphalt paving, those things are truly affected by colder temperatures. Once you're doing underground work, you're almost just limited to the fact when the frost goes in the ground and you can no longer dig. But that's, those items of work can go a little bit longer, but the paving is usually done mid-November to early December is about when we tend to shut things down for paving.
And when do you start it back up?
This year we could have started a few weeks ago, but Mother Nature in Iowa can do some pretty strange things. So contractors are starting to get going again, but typically 1st of April, mid-April, things are firing back up again.
So we really are kind of at the beginning of the season right now.
Yes, we are.
So you mentioned a project starting. If you live on a street that's going to be reconstructed or there's some major repair work, it won't be a surprise. You will know as a resident.
Yeah, if we're going to reconstruct your street this construction season, there's a very, very good chance that we've already reached out to you in a public meeting sense to where we could bring people in and have them ask questions of us. We can show them the project, get information on them with some of the things they may have going on, whether it's an access issue or a roof or a bathroom remodel, something to that degree that we need to help coordinate. So if your street's being reconstructed this year, there's a very, very good chance that we've reached out to you already. If it's scheduled to be done late fall, we'll be in the process of reaching out to those folks right now.
So I think what surprises most people is maybe it's not their street, but it's a route they take to the grocery store to work where they all of a sudden discover that they're on a street that's closed and there's a detour. How do you find out about those in advance?
So what you can do is on our webpage, if you go to cityofames.org, under government, you look for public works. You hit that page and off to the left-hand side, there's a link for construction updates. And on that page there are all the projects that we have ongoing that would affect street work. We try to update those about once a week so people know what's kind of going on.
And you always put a date on there so people know when it's been updated.
Yep, exactly. And a lot of them have maps showing what the impacts are, where the street closures are going to be. Some of our construction can happen under traffic, so you may have to just work your way through it. But if a street is truly closed, we ask people to respect those closures and stay out of those work zones.
Well, great, Eric. I know you're busy, and as you mentioned, this is the beginning of the season, so we probably won't see much of you.
It's going to be a very, very interesting season. A lot of work going on.
And hopefully the weather will be good to you this year.
I hope so too.
Yeah, again, if you want a quick way to get to those construction updates, just go to cityofames.org/construction. It'll take you right to that page. Well, some other events going on in April, you might want to mark your calendar. For Saturday, April 23rd, it's the Water and Pollution Control Open House. You can get more information, including directions, on our website. That event is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, look at our website for more information. Also, don't forget that Open Streets will take place the very next day, Sunday, April 24th from 1 to 4 p.m. That'll be all along Main Street here in Ames. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.